Hello everyone, Cancelo here. In this video, we are going to be going over my Guild Wars tier list and discuss which heroes I think are the most important in the current meta. And before we get started, I just want to mention that the heroes within each categories are not ranked in order, because every hero has situations where they are better than others. So yeah, let's get started with the openers. So for the first opener, I have Aranel. She is probably the best opener right now in Guild Wars because she has the highest base speed. She does an absurd amount of damage, and having extra turns allow her to enable many cleave bridges in the game. In addition to that, she's also very strong in defense. It's very difficult to speed contest her, and you can make her tanky, and this way she is very hard to kill, especially with her built-in evasion. The next opener is Zio. He is really good in Guild Wars because he's guaranteed to take turn 1 right. And there's also many units that can synergize well with Zio, such as Teiyu or Ludwig. The next one is Salome. This unit is very strong for Guild War offense because being able to copy any unit is just insane. For example, copying Hecate or Dark Orphus and just one-shotting the enemy, right? Uh, Her downside is you cannot use her on defense though, because her AI S3 first instead of S2. But she's really strong for offense. The next opener is Briar Witch's area. You pretty much only pick her into Holy Sec units, like revive teams. Sometimes you see like Genesis Ras, Yulha defense, or it's very rare, but sometimes there's also a Ruel and mid Chloe on defense. And usually you can just pick Briar Witch and cliff them. But she fell off a little bit after Arenal came out. The next opener is Amit. Amit is really good because she has high B speed, and her S2 and S3 pushes up the DPS a lot, right? S2 pushes up 25%, and S3 can push up 20% if you are on her own artifact. And also the S3 gives greater attack and the swift attack buff, which synergizes really well with some units such as Hecate or Freerun, right? And the next one is Brigitte. She's Her role is kind of similar as Ahmed. Her S2 pushes up 50%, gives swift attack and greater attack buff with the EE. However, usually you only use Brigitte combined with Aki, and it is only you're only gonna bring her into like Freerun or Lotus. That way you can Brigitte S to the Aki, and Solburn S3 Freerun to remove immunity, and then Aki can finish up. A bit niche, but she's usable. So you can also bridge her with Zio by giving Brigitte the Aram artifact. So Zio S1 should push up your Brigitte. Okay, the next one is Luna. You only bring your Luna against seal units, and if the defense is typically like a bit slower, you can usually simply go Luna, Diane, and the DPS. Usually works fine. And the next one is ML Poly. She is really nice against resource reduction units, and you can bring units like Junua if you bring Poly, right? She mainly made a comeback this season, well, only against Fumir defenses. But yeah, she does have some use cases sometimes. The next one is Renak. After Arenal, Renak loses her position a little bit. However, she is still very usable because her S2 and S3 does so much damage. And same reasoning as Arenal, the extra turn allows her to have many units that can bridge with her, such as Saria or Dragon King Sharun. So you can also kill like free run and stuff because of the pop damage. So she's still a really good opener. Fire Lidica is a little bit niche, but having the Soulburn Ignore ER into Restrict and Bind, as well as the Defense Break on S3, she is sometimes pickable. However, it's more difficult to pick her now. The last opener is the new Summer Fumir. I haven't tested her much because it's only been a few days since she came out, but I feel like she has some potential. like even for Guild War offense. But I'm still not quite sure yet, so I'm not gonna make much comments on her. Okay, so let's move on to the bruisers. The first one is Notos. I mean, I don't think any explanation is needed for this guy. Once you press S3, you can just pretty much one-shot everything, right? He's very busted for Guild Wars, and he pairs well with many units. For example, you can put him, excuse me, put him in front with Lady of the Scales, so that way he just like he's an unkillable frontline for Lady. It's really hard to kill him, especially with SL artifact. And yeah, I mean, there's not much to say about this guy. He's just broken. So the next one is Genesis Ras. He he become really good this season after RNL came out because now you have a unit that can beat RNL, and with 3F you can kill RNL through PS. So Genesis Ras is very strong unit to have this season. The next unit is Dark Corvus. He's mainly there because he's one of the few units that can kill Notos. And also, if you have high HP on DC, you can usually kill like evasions units such as RNL or Trumis. So he's a very solid bruiser to have right now. The next unit is Apocalypse Ravi. She's only here because she tanks Notos. I mean, that's still the reason she's here, because she has the defense penetration built in her passive. And with Draco Blade, she has a 30% damage reduction, right? Every time Notos hits her. So, yeah, one of the few units that can tank Notos. The next one is Mort. Mm, Usually in Guild Wars, he's not really used as a bruiser. Usually, I just make him full tank. I mean, he's just there because he stops counters, right? A really nice unit to have. The next one is Bystander Huayong. Uh, Her passive is really good because she cannot be debuffed. And in certain cases, let's say for a follow-up, if you know the enemy's like HP information, you can usually bring Huayong to one-shot them. Well, like units such as Notos and stuff. The next one is Urban Shadow Shoe. She fell off a little bit, but she can still be used. Let's say if the defense is just full HP scaling units, you can still use Urban Shadow Shoe into those defenses. The next one is Liti. Liti is here because she's one of the few units that can kill Notos. Well, unit Nurse Yuha if you want to kill Notos with Liti. But she's pretty decent. Yeah. Next is Diane. Well, she's not really a bruiser, but you can build a bruiser. She does a lot of damage. But mostly when you pick her, it's because of her seal, right? And she also pairs really well with Lady of the Scales. And she also pairs well with many openers. So yeah, she's definitely a must-have unit. And Diane is just really strong for Guild Wars. And the last bruiser option here is Harsati. Normally, you only pick her into like, say the defense have many openers, many fast units, or if you just need the injury. Because Harsati does a lot of injury because you always do the S1 into the AoE extra attack. So yeah, and she does a lot of damage as well. Okay, so let's move on into the damage dealers. For the first one here, I have Arbiter Fieldred. He's not really an offense unit, but he is really good on Guild War defense because you can give him Summer Photogenic and he just one shot through Lady of the Scales. You can make him tanky, so the Heat Kid's gonna miss kill. There's there's a lot of different builds that you can give to Arbiter Fieldred for defense. Just very solid for defense right now. And the next one is Hikate. Probably one of the most important offense units to have right now because she deals with pretty much every Lady of the Scale defenses and also with a lot of revivers right now, right? Well, not really revivers, but let's say Notos on Holy Sack. or even evasion units. Like Hikit does so much damage she can one-shot them. And now with her EE, she's even better. The next unit is Spiritized Lin. She's a very solid DPS option, a very safe pick for scouting. Well, it's a bit more difficult to use her because of RNL right now, but you can still pick her even against RNL. Let's say if you have her with Christie, right? That way RNL doesn't immediately one shot her, and she can usually kill through miss because she has a lot of damage, and she's also pretty decent because a lot of RBs are around right now on defense. The next unit is Frieren. I mean, this unit has no explanation needed. She does a lot of damage. She has the damage nullifier on her passive. It just makes her really hard to kill. Well, almost impossible to kill in Guild War offense if you pick her with the proper setup. And yeah, there's not much explanation needed for Frieren. Teiyu is here. Is easily the best Zio bridge. Excuse me, the best bridge for Zio, especially after the EE. Now he has 100% chance to defense break, and he just does a million damage. The next unit is Commander Pavel. He's here because he pairs really well with many openers, and also his EE gives extinction now, so you can actually use him to one-shot Notos. And the last one in the DFA's option is Aki. Again, he's one of those units that can kill Notos, and also you can actually kill some DPS units through Lady of the Scales, like even if they're not on the front line. Okay, so now let's move on into the healer and support units. And for the first one, I have Nurse Yuha. She's, I think, the unit that I use the most in Guild War right now because her S3 superhuman is very strong, and also her built-in potion file, right? Just every unit in the team just can cleanse one debuff right off the bat when they took a turn. Is really strong. And honestly, I don't know how to do Guild Wars right now if I don't have Yuha. So definitely one of the top priority picks right now. The next one is Ruel. She's probably the safest unit to pick in Guild Wars. Like if you don't know what to do, just pick Ruel, Tank, and DPS. Most of the time it's gonna work out. The next unit is Lady of the Scales. She fell off a little bit after the Arbiter Filtered buff, and also Hecate, and even RNL, right? Because RNL also ignores damage reduction now, but Lady is still a really strong unit to have, and she's still really viable to attack many defenses. The next one is Biblis. In Guild Wars, I'll say she's good, but not as good as in RTA. However, still very strong in Guild War because of her passive mainly, just giving your team extra HP, and her S3, if you land all Phantoms, just reduces 40% of the enemy HP, right? So really strong against HP scaling teams. And when let's say the defense is like all full DPS, you can just bring Biblis and like two tanks, and they're just gonna kill themselves from the damage reflect. Yeah, Biblis is really good here. The next one is Aram. She is very strong against Sarsetti, and you can also play her fast for cleaving and reset your DPS. A very useful unit and really nice to have in Guild War. Next one is Sinful Angelica. Most of the time she's just a frontline for Lady of the Scales, but sometimes you can also bring her when there's like Holy Sec units, right, or when you need the extinction. Destina, she's she's more so just a replacement for Roel if you don't have Roel. And usually only let's say when you're beating with advantageous element, right? Let's say there's a fire unit and you want them to hit your Destina, or let's say if you don't want the enemy's DPS to hit your Destina, right? Yeah, a bit niche, but still very usable. Mate Chloe, I only pick her against Rinak, and that's pretty much it. Romana, she's really strong against units with extra attack. She's decent into free run and Satsuka. Angelic Montmorency, she's similar as Mid Chloe. Like I only pick her into Rinak. Amomo is also pretty decent because with Rot of Amaryllis she heals a lot and she also gives immunity, which is really nice. And she can tank Rinak because she has the built-in damage reduction. The next one is Doris. She's only a dark bait unit because she has built-in POV against dark units. Young Senya is really strong against in Harseti matchups. And there are some cases also where some Young Senya is good. For example, when you need a immediate cleanse after the enemy first turn, you can bring Senya in green against that. The next unit is Shooting Star Arcades. She's she pairs really well with Spirit Isolene or with ML Kairon. Just giving her S2 gives 3 turns immortal and just protects them, right? But that's pretty much the only use case for SSA. The next unit is Elvira. Same as Shinji, she's usually just a frontline for Lady of Scales. And the last support unit is Schneel. I only pick Schneel against Biblis, and that's pretty much his entire use case. Moving on into the tanks, the first one on the list is Boss Arunka. She's probably the tankiest unit in the game right now. And having her just forces the opponent to attack her, right? So you can keep your other 2 units safe behind her. And she's just very hard to kill in general, really strong for Guild Wars. The next one is IMPRINT Ilinov. You mainly pick her for the penetration resistance against like Genesis Ross or even against Freerun. She's actually pretty decent. You can just give her Crown of Glory because Freerun S3, I think Freerun S3 has pen resistance if I'm not mistaken. So Ilinov as passive also reduces Freerun damage, but I could be wrong. The next one is Silvertide Christie. Easily the best 3-star knight in the game right now because of her passives. Just giving the backline like 300 plus ER is really strong. And also there's some Summer Fumir defenses right now, right? And apparently the meta is to just put Natos in the back and have Christy in front. That way it doesn't really matter if she's gone because you have the ER. But yeah, Christy is just very useful unit. The next one is Blian. I only pick Blian against free run defenses. And sometimes there's also the new Ludwig defense. With Blian, you can tank it as well. And with 3F, she usually does enough as a solo DPS too. So very solid unit. Next one on the list is Yuha. She pairs really well with Biblis because of the damage reflect. And she can kill units through mess. So let's say there's an RB or RNL. Usually you can use Yuha to kill her. The next one is Estelle. Personally, for Green Knights, I prefer Yuha, but Estelle is also a viable pick because her counters does a lot of damage and she heals herself, right? So she's a self-sustaining mitigation and she does decent damage as well. So pretty solid pick here. The next unit is FCC. Uh, she's similar as Mid Chloe. I only pick her against Rina. Sometimes I pick her into a Blian as well because she reduces the pop damage from 3F. Or if I need a bait for like DPS units, right? When I just need a Dark Knight. FCC is decent choice. The next one is Bright Senya. With 3F, she can actually kill like the evasion units right now because there's a lot of them, and she does a really good job protecting the backline. Let's say there's like a retuck defense. You can usually bring Sanya and put a blue unit in the back. That way you can just proc her immediately, and with 3F she does a shit ton of damage. Next unit is Lost Rider Crow. Uh, I only pick him into Lion, but I also find some people that bring him into free run. So you go LRK with Crown of Glory. I'm not a fan of that, but apparently it works. Though I believe that common is gonna die if the free run is just on a full damage build. The next one is Blue Crow. I only pick him into Renak. That's pretty much it. Arrowell is also pretty decent, and because he has the escort buff in turn one, you can potentially buff stack him against some openers. Let's say you get openers that strip two buffs. If you have immunity, you can keep your Arrowell safe if you have immunity. That way, the opener will strip barrier and escort instead of the immunity. Pretty niche, but she is usable. And the last one is Shadow Knight Phyllis. Uh, you only pick him. It's her. You only pick her into units with extra attack or counters. She's pretty decent into Setsuka or Freerun. And you can give her Rocket Punch as a solo DPS as well. Okay, so now let's move on into the follow-up units. These are the units that usually you only pick for when you have information. And the first one here we have Ludwig. He's a really strong DPS, and you can easily pair him with pretty much any openers because you just need the opener to soulburn to push him up. So, and with the hit chance, you can also hit efficient units, right? A really solid pick. The next one is Bystander Wayao. Usually only pair her with Aram. Straze is next on the list. He's pretty much one shot everything, but the problem is you need to know their HP information. You need to know who's the highest HP and whether there's like POV or damage transfer. So he's really solid for follow up, but definitely not a scout unit. Gala Lilius, similar as Straze, you need to have to know the HP information. Zahak is here because he can one shot RNL because he has 100% hit chance, so he is guaranteed to hit on RNL. The next unit is Junwa. You only pick Junwa with ML Poly. And the next one is Sess. Sess is pretty good because he has Extinction on S3, and her S2 also does really good damage. So he pairs really well with Amit and Saria. The next unit on the list is she should be on the niche tier. It's Elena. I picked her once this season, but however it was because the opponent defense is not great. Like it was against Iseria plus two openers, so I just go Zio Ludwig and Elena. Mm, she's pickable, but it's very rare, and her damage is not the best. Yeah, especially when you build her fast. The next unit is Saria, really strong for against evasion units, and probably the best cleave unit for Amit because she does so much damage. The next one is Obsec. You only pick Obsec against barriers, and Laika is here because you can bring her into some Notos defenses. Let's say Harseti Notos Setsuka. You can go with Aram Laika and Blue Hoyong. This way, Laika can extinct both the Setsuka and the Notos, and also she has the target on her S2, so she's guaranteed to hit the Setsuka. And the last one here is Flan. She used to be the best unit, but now she's just whatever, very rarely picked. But she's still usable. You can pair her with Zio or Harseti usually. Next, we're gonna move on to the speed imprints. For the first one is Watcher Shuri. I think now because of all the evasions units around, I think he's probably the best speed imprint for Guild Wars right now. The next one is Fildred. He's a plus 12 imprint and he does a lot of damage, especially after his buff. Green Set is also pretty good. Like for instance, when you need to hit a fire unit, because his S3 has elemental advantage always. Wonder Silk is also pretty good. She's a plus 14 imprint, and if you give her like immunity or as long as she has a buff, you can dual attack with your DPS. So really strong option. And Veronica is here only when there's a Shepherd Dian, right? But there's not much Dian defenses right now. So she fell off a little bit. And you might be wondering why other imprints are not included here. For example, the Dark Shuri or the new Koli. I didn't include them here because the way I approach Guild War is you want your comms to be as safe as possible, like 0 to no RNG. And units like Koli and Shuri, they are RNG units, right? You need to land the debuffs to do damage. So personally, I would never use them on Guild Wars. But those two are really strong in RTA, so yeah. And lastly here, we have the units on the niche tier. The first one is Abigail. She's usually just paired with Chiron, or if you just need your backline to survive. And next one is Chiron. He is pretty decent if your opponent defense is just mostly dark units. You can usually pair him with SSA, and he just do his thing. And with Pursuit, he does so much damage on his S3. The next one is Arya. Arya is only there usually to stack ER. Let's say you have Christie plus your backline unit, and you need more ER. You can pick Arya there. Sylvian Sage Vivian, she's sometimes pickable because of her. When her focus is max, she cannot be debuffed, so she's decent into some heavy debuff comms. The next one is Lionheart Sermia. Personally, I never use Lionheart, but I know a lot of my guildies, well, not my guildies, I saw a lot of people use her and they win with her, so I mean, she does her job, but I'm not a fan of using Lionheart. Next one is Lone Crescent Bellona. One of the best injury units in the game right now. But personally, I prefer to go ML Shu over Melona because Shu is more consistent in Guild Wars. But Melona is usable as well. Fern is a really solid DPS. If you have her on Warfare set, her S3 can just one-shot something right off the bat. Really good for follow-up cleave as well. And the next one is the Evasion Trio, Adin, Fatcat, and Setsuka. If the opponent doesn't have hit chance artifact, I think you can go with these three and just click auto if you're lazy. I never use evasion in Guild Wars, but I mean they're usable if you have the information. The next unit is Amiki. She's pretty decent on follow-up. Well, at least in the tournament format, right? Where you need to collect trial points because she's a 3-star that's +2. She's decent. Also a good bait against Renock defenses. Solitaria. She's sometimes pickable against some Fumir defenses because she reduces the focus. That way Fumir doesn't proc as a defense break. But that's pretty much her only use case for this season, I think. Fene is a decent DPS. Like, when Notos first came out, some people were using Fene, Apoc, and Empyrean Ilinov to fight Notos defenses. And usually Fanny does enough damage by herself, and she also sustained enough. The next one is Frida. Frida is just there to for soul burns when you're cleaving, and also for the attack buff as well. The next units are Landy and Raj Rose. Those two are here just for buff stacking. That's pretty much their only purpose, just to buff stack. The next unit is Fire Crow. I have him here because with his S3 does so much damage, like even through miss. So if you know your opponent's information, you can actually use Crow, but you need to know their HP, yeah. And you have to damage calc. The next unit is Bard Flan. She's not an offense unit, but she's pretty annoying on defense. So I put her here because you can build her like very fast as an opener. You can just build her slow. She's pretty solid on defense. And the last one is the new Ludwig. Same reasoning as Flan. He's pretty annoying on defense. Especially because his S3 has block, right? So you cannot bring a cleanser against Ludwig. So it's pretty annoying to deal with. And yeah, that's it for my tier list. I hope this video can help you, and thank you for watching. See you in the next one.